From a surprise attack led by the militia to Iran's potential involvement against the Israeli regime, here's how global crude oil shortage is deepening Middle East losses. Israel-Palestinian attack. It all started on October 7, 2023, when Hamas-led Palestinian militant groups launched a surprise attack on southern Israel from the Gaza Strip. This marked the start of the most significant military escalation in the region since the Yom Kippur War 50 years ago. The war has led to a dire humanitarian crisis in the area, but that's not the only thing most people are concerned about. You see, after the lingering impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, soaring interest rates, and record high debt levels, the recent conflict in the Middle East poses a significant threat to the global economy. And if it continues, it could cause unprecedented turbulence in the region, which is responsible for nearly 30% of global oil production. Now, don't get us wrong, there might be some hope due to the global economy's improved ability to navigate oil price shocks compared to the 1970s. Nevertheless, we can't really ignore the risks arising from the Middle East, considering just how important it is to power the world. If the war intensifies, it would mark a unique period of global shocks stemming from two major energy-producing regions in rapid succession. And the consequences are already starting to show. Global economic collapse. The current conflict, while contained, has already affected commodity prices. Brent oil prices initially surged by 7% in the first 2 weeks, but have since declined by nearly 4% per barrel since then. This small impact could reflect the world economy's resilience, protected by the strategies implemented post-1970s energy crisis. Not only did countries diversify oil suppliers, but they also reduced dependence on oil and expanded renewable energy sources. On top of that, strategic reserves, international coordination, inventory management, and futures markets were developed to counteract oil shortage impacts on prices. However, this resilience hinges on the conflict remaining contained. Possible outcomes of the conflict. The World Bank's Commodity Markets Outlook forecasts 3 risk scenarios based on historical data since the 1970s, depending upon the degree of oil supply disruption. Firstly, in a small disruption scenario similar to the Libyan civil war in 2011, global oil supplies would decrease by 500,000 to 2 million barrels per day. This will result in oil prices ranging between $93 and $102 a barrel. Secondly, a medium disruption like in the Iraq War in 2003 would cut global oil supplies by 3 to 5 million barrels per day, increasing oil prices to $109 to $121 a barrel. Lastly, a large disruption like the Arab oil embargo of 1973 would shrink global oil supplies by 6 to 8 million barrels per day, spiking prices to $140 to $157 a barrel. This last case scenario could be absolutely catastrophic for the world and could be incredibly harmful for the Middle East. These disruptions in oil supply typically impact other energy commodity prices, such as in natural gas markets, especially in regions like Europe and Asia where liquefied natural gas trading occurs. But that's not all. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and continue to watch. Developing countries will take a hit. You see, increased oil prices often trigger higher food prices globally, worsening food insecurity in many developing countries. Trade barriers and weather-related disruptions could then add on to this issue, potentially worsening the situation for the over 700 million undernourished people worldwide. There are signals in the commodity markets that are worth noting, like the 7% rise in gold prices since the conflict started. This increase suggests that there are increasing worries about global politics and investors are feeling uncertain about what might happen. To avoid any problems, policymakers must quickly change how they handle money and government spending to stop inflation and financial issues from getting worse. But it's going to be hard to do this because inflation keeps going up and there's not much money left for the government to use. However, more than anything, addressing food price concerns is crucial. Governments should absolutely avoid implementing export bans on food and fertilizer. During crises, these policies have been detrimental to the global economy. However, at the same time, resorting to price controls and subsidies tends to favor the rich at the expense of the poor. Instead, the government should focus on increasing social safety nets, diversifying food sources, and boosting efficiency in food production and trade. These things will help the Middle East and the global economy come out of this shock. But these solutions were just short-term. We also need to be working on proper long-term solutions. It's important for long-term plans to focus on speeding up the switch to renewable energy. This can help soften the impact when oil prices suddenly change, make energy more secure, and cut down on carbon emissions everywhere. However, there's another thing that needs to be considered. The global oil supply and tensions in the Middle East. The global oil supply isn't only in danger because of everything that's been going on in Libya as well. You see, protests have erupted, forcing the shutdown of Libya's Sharara oil field, which is capable of producing up to 300,000 barrels per day. This field, a significant asset in Libya, has frequently become a target during political demonstrations. The effect was noticeable in the oil market as Brent crude surged by 70 cents or 0.9%, reaching $78.95 a barrel. Similarly, the US West Texas Intermediate crude futures climbed 74 cents or 1% to hit $73.44. The disruption at Sharara and other regional tensions triggered concerns about potential disruptions in global oil supply. Market strategist Yap Jung-rong pointed out that the tension in the Red Sea and the shutdown of Sharara because of local protests are coming together and having an impact. Both oil benchmarks witnessed a 3% increase on Wednesday, marking the first upward shift in 5 days. The American Petroleum Institute's report, also known as the API report, showcased a substantial 7.4 million barrel drop in crude stocks, twice the expected decline. Even though the API indicated an increase in product stocks, an analyst from oil broker PVM mentioned that people would pay more attention to the big drop in crude inventory caused by the situation in Libya. This is making people worry again and causing prices in the market to go up. In the middle of these developments, tragic events unfolded in Iran during a ceremony honoring Commander Qasem Soleimani, resulting in 2 explosions that claimed nearly 100 lives and left many wounded. Since then, Iran has pledged retaliation, which has heightened tensions in the region. At the same time, concerns continued in the Red Sea after Yemen's Houthis, supported by Iran, said they targeted a container ship heading to Israel. The US Central Command statement regarding the group firing anti-ship missiles in the southern Red Sea heightened concerns about shipping safety. Now the question is, will the oil prices keep rising? Oil market and its future predictions. The future of oil prices is uncertain and largely depends on the unfolding of current conflicts. Analysts suggest that the immediate impact on energy prices will likely be minimal. This is unlike the surge in oil prices that occurred after Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year. The ongoing conflict between Israeli soldiers and Hamas fighters does not directly involve oil-producing nations. Morgan Stanley noted that the near-term risk to oil supply is low, but this could change if the conflict spreads to other countries. Mike Rothman, president and founder of Cornerstone Analytics, believes that the short-term risk to crude prices from this event is limited. He also does not anticipate that the conflict will affect global demand and the OPEC production in the long term. However, other factors such as declining oil inventories worldwide could influence prices. 2 critical factors that could lead to a further rise in oil prices are the potential involvement of Iran or Hezbollah, a Lebanon-based armed group allied with both Hamas and Iran. Hezbollah recently reported firing a barrage of rockets in response to an Israeli bombardment that killed at least 3 of its members. Iran denied involvement in Hamas's surprise attack on Israel despite a Wall Street Journal report claiming Iranian security officials helped plan the assault. The involvement of Iran could significantly impact oil prices. Iran's track record. Former US President Donald Trump reimposed sanctions on Iran's oil industry in 2018, but Iranian oil exports and output increased in 2022 and 2023 as Washington and Tehran resumed talks over Iran's controversial nuclear program. Bob McNally, president of Rapidan Energy Group, suggested that oil prices could surge by $5 to $10 a barrel if Iran gets drawn into the conflict. However, Rothman expressed serious doubts about Israel directly engaging with Iran military. He noted that while Tehran has voiced support for the Hamas attack, this verbal support falls short of the evidence needed for Israel to respond to Iran. The current rise in oil prices brings back memories of the 1973 oil crisis following the October War, when Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel. Arab oil-producing countries responded to US support for Israel during the 1973 conflict by cutting oil production and placing embargoes on the US and some of its allies, causing oil prices to quadruple in the following months. However, the situation today is very different from that time. But the question is, can we expect a Middle Eastern collapse soon? Or will the conflict die down just in time before the global economy gets any worse? Let us know in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this.